Kendrick Ashton. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of the St. James.
Okay, so today we're here at the MLK Classic. I want you to talk about MLK, Martin Luther King, and his dream, and how does that resonate?
Sure. Well, I came of age in Washington, D.C., in the late 70s, 80s, early 90s. And it was a very special time to grow up in this town. There were many, 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 many figures who were critical to um, the revolution that happened in this country that our generation benefited from, that were right here and present. I grew up in Southeast. I went to Jefferson Junior High School in Southwest. I would come down Pennsylvania Avenue from Southeast to get over to Jefferson, and I'd ride by the Supreme Court. And I think that Thurgood Marshall was in that building, the guy that we were learning about like every day. Eleanor Holmes Norton was not the congresswoman until I got to high school, but she was a prominent figure in town. Vernon Jordan was here in town, a big civil rights figure. Dorothy Height was here in town. And all these people that had collaborated with Dr. King to open up this country for us were here. And it made a really profound impact on me that just a short while before I'd been born, the country was really different, and many of the things that I could do that I sort of maybe would have taken for granted, wasn't available to me, wasn't available to my father, wasn't available to my grandfathers, etc. And so I really dug into the civil rights movement, and all my teachers, particularly in the DC public schools, were Black women who had been a part of the civil rights movement, and so they were just drilling into us the importance of us understanding and knowing our history globally, and the importance of us taking advantage of the opportunities that were now available to us. And so Dr. King was sort of the embodiment of all of that. He was sort of the sort of front man, so to speak. But the thing that really most profoundly has shaped my life about Dr. King is his message that we're all one human community, that these shades of complexion that we invest a lot of meaning in really are meaningless. And we really are one community, and we need to live with love at the center of our lives. And I've tried to live my life that way. And so I want to promote that message. I want the next generation to understand that. I think it's critically important. There's much about Dr. King and his philosophy and his life that gets, sanitized, and that gets reduced. So the more we can talk about him and find ways to help young people get connected to what he's about, and really everybody to embrace, the very profound message that he gave to the world. We want to do that, and so this is a small way that we try to celebrate him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us the vision and the mission behind St. James.
Yeah. So the St. James is here to help people maximize their potential. That's what we're all about. And so we don't really confine it to sports, although sports is our primary channel. We really want to help people in every dimension of their lives. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to help people maximize their potential.
You gotta get him a shirt.
Is that your mission too?
He has a clothing line called Maximum Potential.
Okay. Yeah, we need to have your stuff here at St. James.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, it couldn't be more perfectly aligned. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, talk about one of the hardest lessons that you learned. Once you jumped into the business world, that you felt like has shaped you and your character today.
The hardest lesson I've learned. That's a hard question. I don't know that I learned a lot of hard lessons once I got into business. Um,
So you would say your lessons learned early on.
yeah, I think I learned my hard lessons much earlier in life than when I got into business. I think growing up in this town with lots of great mentors, lots of great examples, and lots of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of challenges. Um, I learned a lot. I learned quite a bit about good decision making. Um, evaluating situations, evaluating people. Um, loyalty.
Yeah.
Um, risk. Um, I learned a lot about how tough the world can be growing up here,
Mm-hmm.
and it prepares you well for the rest of the universe. They say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I think there's probably, for many of us, the belief that if you can make it in DC, you can make it anywhere as well. And certainly, if you can make it in Southeast, you can make it anywhere. So I would say, the toughest lessons I got were early in life. We were talking before we started rolling about the values and norms that I grew up with, that I think you guys grew up with as well. And those values and norms aren't necessarily universal. And you learn that the rest of the world operates a little more loosely on some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you navigate that? How do you evolve and account for that? Because the expectations that maybe we grew up with, really aren't the same everywhere. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did some background research,
Good.
right? And I seen
As I would expect.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for me and the show, we believe that representation matters, right? And you were an investment banker with Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Talk about why representation matters in that arena, and can we get more of us in that world? And what did you learn, when you were going through those experiences?
Sure. Well, first I would say, I understand and agree with the notion that representation matters, but I think we have to embrace the notion of being pioneers, and we have to teach our kids and others in our community that it's okay to be first, and that there doesn't have to be someone that looks like you in a seat for you to imagine yourself there. All of human history, all of human achievement, all of humanity is ours, and so we have to accept that, embrace it, and be inspired and empowered by it. Because if there weren't somebody who went there first, then nobody would ever go.
Wow.
And so we really so I don't want you to hear me suggesting that representation doesn't matter, but I do think it's really important that we not
Pigeonhole ourselves.
accept that we can't do something because someone that looks like us isn't there already. And really, in every walk of life over the last 2 generations, Black people have had to be the first doing a whole host of things. So we have to be pioneering in our spirit, and be okay being the first, and obviously figure out how to bring people along and share from information. And I think that's the hardest thing to do, is to come back home and share information. I think that's the biggest challenge, and so I want to commend you guys for what you're doing, because this is a relatable way to get information. But going to William and Mary, and then going to the University of Chicago, and then going to Goldman Sachs, and then having those experiences, it was very difficult to turn around and then go back to Southeast and talk to my friends in Southeast about what that world was like. It took a long time to figure out how to translate those worlds, how to connect those worlds. And so going home was really hard, and that's something that we all want to do, and so but we all got to figure that out. It's important for us to figure that out.
Have you figured that out yet?
I would say I've gotten a lot better at it.
Okay.
But it's still a challenge.
Yeah.
It's still a challenge.
You're You're just a different person because
Yeah.
you've been exposed to
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah. 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 There is that, but it's also where is the opening
Right.
to have these dialogues?
Right.
Where's the forum to do it? You don't just come back home after the semester's over, roll to your buddy's house and say, "Hey, this is whatever it is. This is my philosophy course, or this is how you pick courses, or this is
Right.
there's no organic way to share." And so I think your platform and other pathways enable it. But it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. Yeah. But did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
And it's crazy because I think about, I've during the pandemic, I learned a lot, about stocks. I've dabbled in some real estate. But, sometimes when I talk to, people I grew up with, it doesn't correlate,
Yeah.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, how do I? Because you see things and like you can't unsee what you have seen,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so a lot of times you're like, man, like I want you to get some of this too,
Right.
but it gotta resonate.
It
You know
has to
what I mean?
resonate, and
And
it needs to be organic at some level.
exactly,
Yeah.
you can't just
Yeah.
come in and say,
Right.
hey, this is what we're gonna do, and they're
Right.
like, bro, I haven't
Right.
talked to you in a long
Right.
time,
Right. Right. Right.
And so
That's right.
like you just said, like
Yeah.
where are those openings, where are
Yeah.
those pillars to be able to exchange information?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a lot of times on our show, we talk about handling success.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to be successful, right? But once you kind of reach that plateau or you become successful, how do you maintain?
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about how to maintain?
Yeah. I think sort of embracing this idea that you're successful is dangerous. I think it's perhaps even unhealthy. I think you got to stay grounded. You got to stay hungry. You got to be constantly learning, just constantly seeking more knowledge, more refinement, more growth, and constantly moving your goals along. But this idea of making it is just unhealthy. I think you got to be constantly seeking, constantly on a quest. Um, but also, I mean, people should know that, like, everybody's a human being. Like we're all the same. Like it's um, some people may have had certain opportunities, certain breaks, certain advantages, certain disadvantages, but we all you know breathe air, all need water, all need food,
All bleed the same.
all bleed the same.
Yeah.
We're all the same, and so I think just really embracing that and remaining hungry is how I approach things. I don't I don't sit around and think, man, I'm successful. Like that never that's not something that ever occurs to me. So I'm constantly trying to grow. I'm trying to work, and I think that I have an obligation to the many generations of people that came before me that held on to hope so that I could have a shot at doing some of the things that I've done. And so, I really want to honor that in how I lead my life, and the things I do. And so I feel duty bound to really try to max out. And so, um, you know, I'm not, I'm not in any way, sort of comforted by the things that I've been able to do. Like I just constantly want to do more.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I love that answer. I got a couple things. Never stop learning,
Yeah.
and then not having. I always say comfort. Is a dangerous thing.
It is. It is.
It's a dangerous thing, no matter
Yeah.
what level you're on.
That's right.
And it'll take you out real
That's
quick.
right. That's right.
So your last question.
Oh, last question?
Last question. understand. So
Okay.
let's talk about something that
I
you
feel like I'm getting short shrift because I'm a Carroll guy. Is that what's going on here? You guys are cutting it short.
No, it's
No.
because you're a 49ers
Okay.
guy.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Fair enough. All
All
right.
right. So name something that you have unlearned and relearned.
Unlearned and relearned, and these are different. These are separate concepts, or are they connected?
They could either one.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. So, I mean, the thing I've learned is that um, I when I was younger, I had a very strong code of conduct,
Okay.
very, very definitive, clear code of conduct that I expected everybody to abide by. And I realized when I got to university that um, there was space for people to be outside of the code of conduct that I thought was
Okay.
the expected code of conduct,
I understand.
and that the consequences for being outside of it were a little more lenient than the ones that I had grown up under. And so I really learned that you got to have your eyes open for more things than maybe the things that I thought I had to have my eyes on
Okay.
when I was coming along. That may be too abstract for people,
No,
but
I understand.
But transitioning from a kid growing up in DC to William and Mary was a very healthy next step in my journey into the broader world, because I learned that people have a fairly wide understanding of norms and expectations of how you're supposed to interact with people that you're in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the right place and time for me to learn that, and it really helped me to have my eyes open, have my neck on a swivel, and to and it helped me develop um, ways to communicate mutual understanding and mutual expectations, and to um, resolve disagreements or conflicts in really constructive ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was really powerful for me.
Okay.
And then so that would be, I think, unlearn,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Relearn sounds like I had to learn something that I had learned before. That's what you want me to talk about.
Well, I would say like you might grow up seeing life a certain way,
Yeah.
having certain habits or ways of going about things, and as
Yeah.
you gotten older, you're like, that's not really. So like, I'll give you an example of something.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of us, when I say a lot of us, I ain't even just talking about black people, just people in general, have been taught basically how to spend money,
Mm.
right? But we haven't really been taught how money is really used,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was a huge thing that I had to learn,
Sure.
right? And
Sure.
you know, parents work hard,
Yeah.
right? But there were certain things that I had to go find other ways and say, oh, okay, there's a different way to go about this.
Sure.
You know, that was one
Sure.
of the things I did learn at Gonzaga was legacy and lineage,
Sure.
and seeing, just how, like, I actually I shared this not too long ago on the show, was um there was a time where we were back in school for like a reunion, and literally during the time frame, like, I asked one of my classmates, like, where, what are you doing with yourself? And he was just saying, hey, I'm gonna try this entrepreneurship out, and if it don't work, I'll go work with my dad, in my
Mm-hmm.
30s, right? And
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before,
Sure.
right? And like,
Sure.
how do you do that? How do you set that up? Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just when you get exposed to certain things, like you're like, well, how does that go about? That wasn't something that I learned
Sure,
growing up,
sure,
you know. So
sure,
just stuff
sure.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I guess a good example of something I learned or relearned is really the power of education
Mm.
and investing in education and really having that be like a foundational element of how you think about um, sustaining and replicating achievement and productivity in a family.
Mm.
And so, as my wife and I think about our children, there's no expense that we'll spare
Right.
with respect to their education, and we are we are relentless about trying to find the best schools with the best families. When I say best, high standards, high values families that are a part of these school communities, so that our kids get world class educations, which is really the foundation of freedom and productivity. And so, you hear that all the time growing up, but you may have a wide variety of opportunities, and the quality of the education you get during different stops may vary quite significantly, and the mix of the families in terms of their commitment to it um, may change. But obviously, I was told every day, get an education, get an education, get an education, and I heard that, but I didn't really understand it at a very sophisticated level until going off to university and going off to graduate school and seeing a broader world and seeing that that there are really well defined, well understood pathways that help you replicate the outcomes that you want to see for many, many generations. And you have to inculcate in each generation an understanding of that so that they can themselves replicate it. So
Good.
that's what I got.
What they say, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually got one more question.
Keep going, man. I felt like there was some Gonzaga Carroll stuff going on.
Yeah. I
And
got one more question.
let's keep going.
So,
North Capitol Street love.
yeah, absolutely. So obviously MLK fought for freedom. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
So
And love.
and love,
Yeah.
absolutely. So like, what does freedom mean to you?
I mean, freedom means that I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. I get to determine, um, my future. I get to decide how I invest my time and energy, and there are no arbitrary, random constraints that are placed on that. I really believe that we are masters of our fate, and even in circumscribed circumstances, we want to still drive towards the fate that we want to see in our lives. But it really is an unconstrained capacity to go after what you want to go after. Obviously, you don't want to hurt other people, and that sort of goes without saying. But inside of that, I have the capacity to pursue whatever I want to pursue. And I think we are largely in a world that enables that. Some of us have, an easier path at it than others. But I think that's the world we live in today. And that's the message that I think we need to be telling our young people. They should be as hopeful as any generation of young people has ever been. I mean, I think about my grandfather who went to Scott Montgomery and Slater Langston elementary schools in Northwest, and then Shaw Junior High School, like Lorenzo did. And he was born in 1924.
Wow.
And, you know, um, the color line in baseball, as you guys know, was broken by Jackie Robinson in 1947. So my grandfather, who raised me, was 23 years old before a black man could play Major League Baseball. He was 30 years old when Brown versus the Board of Education outlawed separate but equal. So, the constraints and oppression that our grandfathers and our great grandfathers, and to some extent our fathers lived under, is it's not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so our kids need to be like jumping out of bed to take advantage of all the stuff that's available now.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get after it, man.
Yeah.
Let's maximize our potential.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's. Oh, I was gonna say, man, it's crazy that you said that because I was just thinking, like, my father, he grew up in Madison, Virginia,
Sure.
and he couldn't play basketball,
Yeah.
right? Because like if you've ever been down there,
I
there's
have.
no lights,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so he was worried about protection, getting
Sure.
home,
Safety.
so
Yeah.
he would have to walk to school. I mean, walk from school to home, and he needed to be there before
The sun
the
went
sun
down.
went down, or
Sure.
else he might
Anything could happen.
disappear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like I always say, man, we go through so many different phases. Like that era was a civil, you know, civil was the fight, a fight for
Mm-hmm.
civil, and then we went to political,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To like we need to be able to vote, and now to me it's economical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's all these levels, and then we don't know what our children will be going through. But
Yeah.
like every level, there's going to be something different, and we
Yeah.
got to continue to climb that
That's
that
right.
ladder,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So I felt that, man, and I can keep going, man. I want
I
to
have time.
ask. I want to ask about balancing family life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got two little ones, and I'm all over the place.
Sure.
He has a 15-year-old, 15?
15-year-old,
He's
yeah.
15.
Gonzaga,
You know,
Gonzaga guy.
Unbelievable.
you know.
Gonzaga was that good to you guys. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
So like how do you balance that? And
Yeah.
what are the obviously you talked about your disciplines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you carry all of that into the next level for your children, or do you?
Oh yeah. 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 Definitely. Yeah. I try to be super organized, super intentional, and really try to think about all the important things that need to get done in my life across the year, and try to plot it out. And really, you have to be flexible. Obviously, things evolve, things change, things happen, and so you need to be able to adjust when you have to adjust. But you really, if you want to maximize, your ability to engage across all the things that are important in your life, you got to be super intentional and plan thoughtfully. And so that's what I try to do. And I think about the year, each quarter, each month, each week, and I try to lay everything out. And what do you want to do? Okay, I want to get the kids to school. Okay, so how do I make that work? Okay, I want to be at a basketball game. Okay, so what do I do to make that work? And you got to make choices sometimes. You can't do everything. You can't be in 3 places at once, even with Zoom. But but that's how I approach it. And fathers are super important, man.
Mm-hmm.
Super important. And so I'm trying to give my kids all that I can. And so I know what's going on with them. And I put it in the calendar.
Okay.
But that means I don't get 12 hours of sleep. I might get 5, which it's fine.
I feel that.
I
feel that. Okay.
But I'm not going to the club. I'm not jetting off the St. Bart's.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time, man. People waste. I mean this lovingly.
Mm-hmm.
People waste a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're somewhat thoughtful about it, I think it's doable.
Yeah. There's a book I read called Outwitting the Devil. You read that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, and it talked about what they say drifters, right? And they say like you can drift through life and not even realize it.
Oh man.
Right. And then we talk about that with that transition in sports all the time, right? Like you're done playing and you're trying to figure out in just that gray, cloudy area.
Yeah.
But then if you don't get your habits in order,
yeah,
like, you will drift through life, and then 10 years go by and you're like, damn, what did I do with myself?
Time flies, man. It seems like yesterday I was sitting in class at Amber's Elementary School.
Wow.
Literally seems like yesterday. And so, um, as painful as each one of those days between then and now has been, like it seems like I blinked and and we're sitting here. So you're 100% right. Time will not stop. It accelerates as we get more mature,
Hmm.
and you can piss it away, man. You can really piss it away. We've seen far too many people do that, and so that doesn't mean you can't have fun, doesn't mean you can't enjoy life. We should be all trying to enjoy ourselves with this limited existence we have. But you should be intentional,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
So
I feel that,
yeah.
man. So, man, you want to close out?
Well, we definitely appreciate you for coming on the show. We definitely
Likewise.
appreciate you for allowing us to be here at St. James.
Yeah.
And
Thank you guys.
we're closing it out and definitely want you to look into the camera and tell the audience to stay game related.
Stay game related.